There are many different types of geographic features and structures across our planet, such as mountains, lakes, deserts, forests, grasslands, coral reefs, and glaciers, to name but a few. The geographic features and structures that most people have heard of tend to be the biggest, longest, and most impressive. Like say Mount Everest, for example, which is without doubt the most well-known mountain on Earth. So let's take a trip around the planet and see what other impressive structures we can find. So you will have most likely have heard of Uluru or Ayers Rock, which is a gigantic sandstone monolith in the heart of Australia's outback. It isn't just one of Australia's most iconic attractions, but perhaps one of the most iconic attractions on Earth. Yet there is a rock also found in Australia which is actually about double the size of Ayers Rock, called Mount Augustus. Mount Augustus is known as the largest rock on Earth, and depending on your criteria and/or definition, it could also be classed as the largest monolith too. But as the definition of a monolith is a geological feature consisting of a single stone or rock, Mount Augustus technically isn't, as it's made up of many different rocks. Whereas Ayers Rock is classed as a single rock, therefore by definition the largest monolith on Earth. Ayers Rock is an unbelievable 348 meters high at its highest point, 3.6 kilometers long and 9.4 kilometers around the circumference. Sticking to the theme of Australia, the largest living structure on Earth is the Great Barrier Reef, found along the country's northeastern coast. It stretches some 2,300 kilometers in length. It also consists of nearly 3,000 individual reefs and covers a distance of around 350,000 kilometers squared, about the same size as Germany. So most of you probably already knew that the Great Barrier Reef is the largest reef on Earth. But what is the second largest? Well, that accolade would belong to the Mesoamerican Reef, which is found in this region here, stretching from North to Central America along Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. Its length is about 1,100 kilometers, so about half the length of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. The largest vertical drop on Earth is found in Canada, on a mountain named Mount Thor. Quite simply, if you were to stand at the very top and jump off, you'd fall for over 4,000 feet before splattering off the floor. And as you reach terminal velocity after around 1,500 feet or 12 seconds, this means you'd continue to fall for another 20 to 25 seconds after reaching your maximum falling speed. What makes this mountain even more terrifying is where it is found. It is found super deep into Canada's northwest, actually not too far from Greenland. The valley that Mount Thor sits in is honestly one of the most impressive things you'll ever see on our planet. It's like something found from a different planet in a different galaxy. Lake Titicaca is the world's highest large lake. It is found on the border between Peru and Bolivia in the Andes Mountains. Its surface elevation is around 3,800 meters high, so basically imagine climbing Mount Everest around 43% of the way up and discovering a pretty big lake. Although certainly not the largest lake in the world, as it ranks 18th, it is still rather impressive to see a decently sized lake so high up on a mountain range. In 2013, what was thought to be the largest volcano on the planet was discovered. Tamu Massive, which is found in the northwest Pacific Ocean, covers an area of around 550,000 kilometers squared. That's roughly the same size as mainland France. However, in 2019, the newly found volcano was stripped of its title as the world's largest volcano, as it was discovered that it formed via seafloor spreading rather than a single eruption. Therefore, Mount Kea in Hawaii regained its title as the world's largest volcano, standing some 13,800 feet from its base underwater to its peak. Although the tallest volcano in the world, Mount Kea is not the highest, as this belongs to Ojos del Salado, which is found in the Andes between Chile and Argentina. Standing some 6,900 meters high, it is also the highest point in Chile and the second highest point on the entire continent. The volcano is also dormant. Although the Himalayas is possibly the most famous mountain range in the world, where you'll find most of the world's tallest mountains, the Andes mountain range in South America is actually considered the largest above water mountain range on Earth. It stretches some 7,000 kilometers across 7 different countries. However, there was a certain key word which you might have heard in that previous sentence: above water. If we include all mountain ranges on Earth, then the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is technically the world's largest mountain range, extending for an unbelievable 16,000 kilometers in a curving path from the Arctic Ocean to near the southern tip of Africa. The ridge at certain points is 3 kilometers high, between 1,000 and 1,500 kilometers wide. Most of the ridge system is underwater, but forms land in the shape of a series of volcanic islands of varying sizes that extend along the Atlantic Ocean. These islands include Iceland, the Azores of Portugal, and Tristan da Cunha, which is a UK overseas territory considered to be the most remote settlement on Earth. Stretching some 250 kilometers along Brazil's southeastern coast is what is considered the world's longest beach. The name Praia da Cassino, which is Portuguese for Casino Beach, as just mentioned, is found along Brazil's very southeastern coast, along the South Atlantic, and is the largest uninterrupted sandy beach that can be found anywhere on Earth. The beach stretches all the way down to a seaport just north of the border with Uruguay. Located in Bolivia's southwest, you will find the world's largest salt flat. It covers a distance of around 10,000 kilometers squared, which is a larger area than the entire country of Qatar. The salt flat was formed as a result of an ancient lake drying up thousands of years ago, leaving behind just its salt deposits. The salt flat is unquestionably one of the most otherworldly places on Earth. From certain angles, the area resembles a massive mirror or a shallow pond. It even features these small pyramid-like structures formed by the salt deposits. It is quite a popular tourist attraction. If you've been there before, do let us know if it's worth visiting. A steppe is quite simply a large area of flat unforested land, and is actually a particular subtype of grassland. Steppe grasslands are found on nearly every continent, with the exceptions of Australia and Antarctica. They are drier and colder than other grasslands and lack humidity because they are far from the ocean and near mountains. The largest steppe on Earth is the Eurasian steppe, which is gigantic, extending from Hungary in centralish Europe all the way to China for a distance of around 8,000 kilometers. This region reaches almost 1/5 of the way around the entire planet. The Eurasian steppe is large enough that it's sometimes just referred to as the steppe. The Eurasian steppe has long been a vital route for travel and trade due to its flat terrain that provides an excellent path between Asia and Europe. For thousands of years, caravans of horses, donkeys, and camels have journeyed across this vast region. One of the most famous trade routes on the Eurasian steppe is the Silk Road, connecting China, India, and Europe. It was established around 200 BCE, and many of its paths are still used today. Covering a distance about the same size as Qatar, which as mentioned earlier is about the same size as the world's largest salt flat, is also about the same size as the world's largest iceberg. Known as iceberg B15, it measures around 300 kilometers long by 40 kilometers wide, and snapped off from Antarctica's Ross Ice Shelf in March 2000. The iceberg in that form actually no longer exists, as it's broken up into many smaller chunks over the last couple of decades. Somehow, scientists estimated that the iceberg weighed over 3 billion tons. For reference, the iceberg that sunk the Titanic was up to 100 feet tall and 400 feet long, so minuscule compared to B15, and in fact about 3,000 times smaller if my maths is correct. So there we have it, some of the world's most impressive geographic structures, terrains, and landscapes. If you can think of any others, please do let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching.